Trump media is raising $12 billion to go out there and buy more Bitcoin treasury companies. And this is coming at the exact same time that this supply suffocation continues to brew. We can see it's not just Trump media coming out and scooping Bitcoin and taking it off of the exchanges, but we now see that Jamie Dimon is potentially unlocking a $100 trillion market to buy Bitcoin, because now he's saying he could be looking at Bitcoin-backed bonds at JP Morgan. That is a $4 trillion giant, and this could now unlock the $300 trillion debt market to start to flood into the Bitcoin space. That is not an exaggeration, but this headline combined with the fact that now Trump media wants to raise $12 billion worth of new shares to go out there and not only buy more Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, treasury companies. I think this is just the final nail in the coffin that says that Bitcoin is not going to be adopted in the way that we all expect it to be adopted. Things are going to get exponential. Things are going to accelerate in a way that I think most people are not prepared to do and not prepared for, so to say. And I just think it's only a matter of time before we continue to see the number of Bitcoin on exchanges continue to shrink, and it's going to continue to do so in a way that I think is going to catch absolutely everybody off guard. Nobody is prepared for who is buying Bitcoin and at the pace they are buying Bitcoin right now. It's scary. But let's break down this brand new news about Donald Trump. And again, it's interesting that this announcement is coming out at the same week that Donald Trump is kind of having probably the biggest and most publicized argument with Elon Musk. We've got the world's richest man and the world's most influential man, Donald Trump, literally arguing over the government deficit and money printing and how the situation is not salvageable. Have you got Bitcoin? Imagine actually selling Bitcoin today while you have these two titans arguing over the unfixable problem of the debt. Just a little aside I wanted you guys to know about. But again, Trump's media company registers $12 billion in new securities eyeing a Bitcoin ETF. Let's break down exactly what this means. They're going to be issuing 84 million shares of common stock, potentially raising as much as $12 billion. This is absolutely huge. And this is after their initial $2.44 billion raise just last week. Again, this is going exponential. A lot of people said, all right, they're raising $2.44 billion. This happened last week, but a lot of people said, it'll just be a one-off. They just did another raise 6 times the size. And we just showed you in the tweet that I pulled up a moment ago what kind of impact this could potentially have on the Bitcoin supply. Now, again, caveat, these guys are buying Bitcoin companies who are going out there and buying Bitcoin. So there is a little bit of a bait and switch going on. This company, Trump Media, Trump Social, these guys aren't necessarily buying Bitcoin directly with all of that capital, but you guys can see a $12 billion raise is huge, because a $1.5 billion raise, that would rip 15,000 coins off of the exchange. Think about that for a minute. 15,000. A $1.5 billion raise to buy Bitcoin, that alone is ripping over 30 days of supply off of the exchanges. A $12 billion raise, again, if it were being used to buy purely Bitcoin, is that 120,000 coins? Which is just kind of insane when you think about it. And this is where we need to start crunching the maths, because in the clip that we showed you initially of Michael Saylor on CNBC, he did say not all of the Bitcoin will be mined in our lifetime. That's right. We have about 5% of the Bitcoin supply left to mine over the next 115 years. And people aren't prepared for the exponentiality of how this supply will be distributed. Because when we take a little bit of a peek at the Bitcoin mining rewards chart, you can see things get really wonky here in the future. Even just by the year, let's call this, let's take a peep at 2048. It's only really what, 23 years into the future. All of the miners and all of the computing power all around the world will be competing for 0.048 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. That is the block reward paid to the miners every 10 minutes. 5% of a Bitcoin. Think about how much computer power is going to be fighting over that 5% of a Bitcoin every 10 minutes. Once a new block is added onto the Bitcoin blockchain, which you guys can see on screen right now, each miner will only receive 5% of a Bitcoin. Again, I think things are getting bullish. And again, I kind of mentioned it earlier in the show here. But what happens if more and more of this Bitcoin is locked into the hands of people who do not have the intentions to sell? Like what Michael Saylor was kind of saying, this is a little bit of a Hotel California situation. Once you check in, you can't leave. And this is kind of what we're beginning to see. Or no, not beginning. This is kind of already what we have seen with these Bitcoin treasury companies. Over 90% of these companies, when they buy Bitcoin, they don't sell Bitcoin. Again, this is the chart I haven't really, again, I've showed you this website so many times because I think it's the most important website in Bitcoin to understand. But I haven't showed you that 90% of these charts and these graphs, they're all trending in one direction. That's up. Yes, around 1 in 10 of these companies has sold Bitcoin previously. Around 1 in 10 when you crunch the numbers. But 90% of these companies accumulate Bitcoin. And this is really a one-way highway. This trend is not slowing down. It's only accelerating. And I think it's only a matter of time before this is the catalyst that sends Bitcoin to tens of millions of dollars per coin. I do not think this trend is going to slow down. And I think the fact that we have this new news of Trump media now saying, all right, we raised $2.4 billion recently. Now we're raising $12 billion this week. This is a sign that this trend is accelerating. It's proven. It's got all of the green lights from the regulators and the bureaucrats, and it is not slowing down. It is happening, and even Michael Saylor is now saying my original $13 million Bitcoin prediction is a little bit too bearish. Again, I do want to break out the Bitcoin Kager calculator, but before we do, if you want to prepare for a world with $13 million Bitcoin, I encourage you to just start thinking about that today. That world is probably going to arrive quicker than you could imagine. And just be prepared. Again, I think a lot of people are going to make some rash decisions when the price of Bitcoin rises. I think they're going to do some things that we do not advocate for here on the channel. Again, I am not a financial advisor, but me personally, I won't be ever selling some Bitcoin because I don't want to personally take a tax hit. Okay. Again, explore this situation based upon where you live and, what jurisdiction and rules you're living under. But I think borrowing against your Bitcoin is the best way to, spend some of your precious Bitcoin when the price of it goes up so aggressively. It's natural. People want to actually access some of that liquidity. Again, I've been looking for a solution for you guys to use for a long time now. You saw in 2022, BlockFi, Celsius, FTX, all these companies that offered you the option to spend and unlock some of your liquidity, they all went bankrupt because they were rehypothecating your Bitcoin. I've always said on this channel from day one, if you don't know where the yield is coming from, you are the yield. And I would not engage in that practice. But this is why I've recently partnered up with a company who I actually trust and is fully backed. And that is FIREFISH. Okay, FIREFISH is a peer-to-peer lending company where you guys can unlock your liquidity and lend against your Bitcoin in the peer-to-peer market. Again, I've been looking for a solution for this for a long time, and there's not many lending companies that get the Bitcoin maximalist tick of approval. But if you do want to learn more about FIREFISH, their co-founder, Igor, was recently on the Stefan Levera podcast, probably one of the best hardcore Bitcoin maximalists from the technical space. And they kind of walked through all of the intricacies with FIREFISH. So I highly recommend you guys just learning more about it. Again, if you do want to go onto the platform, and start unlocking the liquidity, either borrowing or even lending your Bitcoin out on FIREFISH, you can use promo code Luke, and that will get you a 30% discount on all your fees for your first loan. So definitely check out FIREFISH if you are interested in unlocking the liquidity of your Bitcoin. Now, let's move on and let's take a little bit of a peep at the Bitcoin Kager calculator, because I do think this is interesting. Michael is now saying his bear case, his $13 million bear case, is now, guess what? Too bearish. He's now slowly starting to hint that he's going to get even more bullish. So what exactly does that mean? What does that mean for Bitcoin? Does that mean we're going to only go up and to the right forever? Well, I want to break down the different Kagers that Michael's talked about previously. So this is a little bit of an Excel spreadsheet. Again, you guys of the live stream, you get a little bit of a peek under the hood of what could be coming with future videos here on the channel, because this is proprietary. I haven't actually released the video that I've done looking at these Kagers, but we can see the bear case for Bitcoin, 22%. This is Michael's bear case. Bitcoin's Kager only needs to rise by 22% a year, and that gets us a $13 million a coin. The base case, we need a 29% Kager, and the bull case, 36% Kager. Michael is now saying, hey, look, this 22% Kager could be too bearish. It might just be too bearish. Don't you think that is interesting? I'm just checking the comments to see what you guys think the Kager of Bitcoin could be in the future and where it is going to be in 20 years' time. There's so many of you guys tuning in. Welcome to the 784 of you guys on this live stream between YouTube and Twitter. Again, if you are here, I'd encourage you guys to subscribe so you're notified for when my next big interview drops. I am going to be also dropping my deep dive where I look into these Bitcoin Kagers. And again, nobody's run the numbers that I run on this Excel spreadsheet. You're only seeing a section of it. So again, nobody can go steal that idea before I do it. It's already done and it's been released this week. So stay tuned for that. Again, the live viewers, you guys get that as soon as it happens. I'm not interested in Fartcoin either. I can guarantee you that. And you know what's actually funny? I wanted to run the Bitcoin Kager numbers with you guys, but I literally do have a massage that I'm 19 minutes late for. So I'm actually going to have to skedaddle and get out of here. And again, if you guys want a little bit of an insight into where these Bitcoin Kager numbers go, and if you want to actually think a little bit more about what happens in a world when there are no Bitcoin left on exchanges, I'm actually going to point you guys in the direction of two recent interviews that I just released on this channel. One of them was with British Hodl and Peter Dunworth. Again, it was an absolute firecracker. This was the most bullish Bitcoin roundtable I've ever seen. I was just lucky enough to be a part of it. I'm going to put a link to that video somewhere around there, and that's going to pop up after the live stream's finished. And then I'm also going to put a link to my recent interview with Samson now. I'm going to put a link to that one somewhere around there. Well, I said, thank you so much for you guys tuning in. Just a quick update today. I'll see you all tomorrow.